Parley is the theme today, people. Remember this? Remember this thing? My very sophisticated production.
You hand it over, we'll put you down to our rudder and never return.
Keira Knightley. Pirates of the Caribbean was so much fun. This will all make sense in a minute. Just give me a second.
How bargain?
Steal the guns stores. Trickle them in, set the flags, make with the clear water.
You have to take me to shore. According to the code of the Order of the Brethren.
First, your return to shore was not part of our negotiations nor our agreement, so we must do nothing. And secondly, you must be a pirate for the Pirates' Code to apply, and you're not. And thirdly, the code is more what you call guidelines than actual rules. Welcome aboard the Black Pearl, Miss Turner.
Parley. You have to be a pirate to participate in Parley. What's going on right now in the Middle East? You have to be a Muslim. It's Parley. Iran is not trying to wipe out everybody in the Middle East. That's part of the never-ending gaslighting, which is the American media, controlled by wild-eyed, crazy, bloodthirsty Zionists. If you look at these videos on Substack and TikTok or anywhere on, you're going to be sort of confused that it appears that Iran could strike these places much, much harder than they are. That's what they're doing. They're basically saying to everybody in the Persian Gulf, you're in range. Let's make a deal. Most of the Gulf states are at least 60% Shia. When we killed the Ayatollah, like we use the word Ayatollah like it's some evil, like demonic guy who sits in a basement and thinks of new places to terrorize and blow up. The Ayatollah, the Shia community of Iran, is a lot more like a pope, and we just murdered him. We murder negotiators. Remember the scene in Gladiator when the Romans send out a guy into the woods to negotiate with the Germans and he comes back without his head? That's what we've been doing under Trump. We've been killing the guy with the white flag over and over and over again. If you know any history, like even the Civil War, once in a while they would be like, somebody would stand up with a white flag and say, I'm just going to run out and take water to both sides. Please don't shoot me. This is what we've witnessed by this way that America and Israel is going about this war under Trump with Iran is the kind of thing that brings global rage. You follow me? I guess even in Stalingrad, they had something. You're not allowed to the same idea. You're not allowed to shoot the medics, and you're not allowed to shoot the water carriers. And the snipers wouldn't shoot the medics and the water carriers. Like, there's always Parley, people. There's always some sort of humanity just a little bit left in warfare. But we've crossed the line. We have the Board of Peace, and I'm going to tell you tonight that it's the board. We should call it the Board of Beast. So what's happening is the Iranians are reaching out and striking these LNG facilities and a hotel, maybe an American base, maybe in an airport, with just like one missile. And it's just like Parley. It's like a shot across the bow. And if you haven't seen the images yet, like Iran is like this, and then all the Gulf states and the U.S. Navy just goes in and out of there at will for the last 80 years or whatever it is. And that's come to an end. So we're going to talk tomorrow at length at noon Eastern about what this means for investment. But for tonight, it's the nationalist. And what I can tell you is you won't understand any of this if you think of it in national terms, like America, Israel, Iran, Russia. There's something else going on here. And we don't really understand very well the relationship of Muslims amongst themselves. They won't do mass atrocities against each other because the rest of the Muslim world will turn against them. But here's the thing, Linda. The Persian Gulf is where all the petrodollars get recycled. Okay, if that sounds like some sort of Wall Street talk, what did Trump do in his first term? As soon as he was elected, he flew right to Saudi Arabia, right? Remember? Got $100 billion in aircraft and military shit. And then the Saudis attacked the Houthis. We got the money, they got the weapons, they attacked the Houthis. The Houthis are Shia like Iran. Trump 2, he goes back for like a week and just unbelievable. No one's ever seen anything like it. Got $700 billion from Saudi Arabia. Then flies the next. Unbelievable. Qatar has provided the new presidential Air Force One. Unbelievable. It's the most beautiful plane. Completely insane that the president of the United States would fly around in a fucking airplane from a Gulf state like we can't build our own airplanes. He was going to collect all that money, right? And what was it for, Linda? It was for AI. He had the meeting in the White House and he talked about there's not $22 trillion, people. There's not $22 trillion. He's a reality TV star. Then at the State of the Union, there was $18 trillion. Well, I know you can read Zero Hedge by yourself, but I'm going to tell you right now that when you go back and you read the headlines from today, what you are seeing is not just an interruption of that petrodollar recycling. I think it's permanent. It's not just because the bombs are flying. I think this is permanent. And I think it's because there's a parlay that goes like this. We're Iran. We, help the Hezbollah and Hamas. By the way, Hamas are not Shia. With some weapons and some training, but let's all be friends. But we're the people who have always been on the side of the Palestinians, right? And here come the Americans. They don't even act anymore. They have the Board of Peace, and they're just going to turn Gaza into a giant Dubai or Las Vegas, right? And we're the Iranians. We've always been on the side of the little weak people, right? We're Persian. We've been here 6,000 years. So we've always been the ones that have been on the side of the Ummah. If you don't know what the Ummah is, that's the pan-Muslim world. So we're reaching out to you, Oman, Qatar, Bahrain. Yeah, we blew up a couple tanks, but we didn't get crazy. You're the ones that go get the Romanian girls and the prostitutes and create your sex dungeons in Dubai. You've heard all this shit. These stories are unbelievable. This is exactly like Epstein. It's exactly like Epstein. And in Muslim terms, they would say, like, you're the ones that are the infidels. You've joined these other people that do this horrible shit. And now, I don't know if you've seen it, but now Epstein is now how they're describing the West. It's just Epstein land. So just mentally just think about this. Like 40% of China's oil comes from the Persian Gulf. The recycling of it's billions of dollars a day, right? A tank goes out. Have you ever seen the LNG tanker things with the giant balls on them? Okay, they go out and billions just come into the checking account of the United Arab Emirates and Dubai and all those capitals. And what happens to them? They come back into U.S. assets. They come back into Wall Street. They come back into AI. They come back into, wait for it, business development companies. So the headlines, as you go down through Zero Hedge, what I'm here to tell you is it's all the same headline. War in the Persian Gulf means the petrodollar flow around the world is interrupted, and I think it's forever impaired. Now, I just read that the Iranians said, yeah, it'll be fine if the Americans want to escort things in and out of the Straits of Hormuz. In other words, we're not the bad guys. We don't send missiles to playgrounds where little girls are playing outside their little Muslim school. You fuckers have done this. This is who you're allied with. So just watch this. By the way, the rise in the price of oil, it's only $80. It's not 180, it's not 120, whatever. The rise in the price of oil this week is the largest increase in oil prices in a week ever. Ever. Okay? So, private credit swimmers exposed. That's the idea that, like, when the tide goes out, you can see who's not. That's a Warren Buffett thing. Oh, yeah. Payrolls plunged by 92,000 in February. I think the economy is much weaker than anybody talks about. And this brought, quote, total global fucking chaos. Next one. Trump is ready to continue operations until Iranians can't fight any longer. Well, that's ambitious. FBI investigating suspected cyber attack on sensitive surveillance network. We'll get to that on Sunday. U.S. gasoline demand fell further amid long-term structural shift, plunging per capita consumption. The economy is much weaker than people realize. We're going to talk about inflation here in like a broad sense. Like, inflation is a word that sort of gets thrown around on CNBC and Bloomberg a lot, and it's talked about in sort of a Mickey Mouse way. I'll tell you more. Okay, here we go. Private credit fire sale begins. World's largest asset manager, BlackRock, gates a $26 billion fund. That's a big one. When gates means you're not allowed to get your money back. 9% of the holders of these private credit funds, and I'm telling you, a lot of that money comes from the Persian Gulf. That's what Trump did. He got pledges to credit funds to go build AI data centers all across America. And suddenly, for a number of reasons, that money just got cut off. People want their money back because there's no fucking revenue from OpenAI. There's no new money coming in. Blue Owl was building a thing in Lancaster, Pennsylvania, and got cut off the money. And so the tide of this money is going back out. 9% of a $26 billion fund wants their money back out. And there's nothing to sell. What are they going to sell? The data centers? Nobody even knows if they can be paid for. It's all the same story, people. This is weird. Gavin Newsom is going to get rid of all the oil refineries in California. Like, what does that do for any? I mean, there's two ways to really look at what's going on. This is just Trump and his gang of gangsters, or this is like some big preconceived thing to rechange the financial markets. I'll let you go either way with that. Really doesn't matter, right? It's like the line from The Departed, when you're staring down the barrel of a gun, what's the difference? Like, whether it's a conspiracy theory or Trump's insane, here's where we are. I don't know who this is. Mills, I don't know, the Trump administration is quote reveling in the carnage as Tehran burns. The U.S. Postal Service is going to run out of funds within a year. It just goes on and on like this, people. Oh, but here's the last one I wanted to get to. Remember the big data centers in Texas that are like big as Manhattan? Here's the headline. Oracle and OpenAI scrap Texas data center expansion plans, sending AI stocks lower. So Trump's big AI $18 trillion build out has just been reversed. OpenAI doesn't have any the customer base to support this. There's not new money coming in to build these things out. The Chinese AI, I use Manus every day. It's $19.95. It is so fast and so powerful now. Like I can't even give it anything crazy that it can't solve in 15 minutes. It's the AI is being used to make AI. The AI is being used to make software. The whole tech world as we've known it is now upside down. So let's hit that for a minute. So inflation is usually presented on television as consumer inflation. Like, I'm just going to pick something weird, like the price of tires, right? And you go 1 year and like, shit, they're $2.25 each. Maybe I'll get the cheaper ones. And then you go back next year and they're like $2.50, and they're just, it's consumer. What investors, and we're going to talk about all investing tomorrow. What investors don't realize is the biggest inflation through the war on terror, since COVID, whatever time frame, it's all in the stock market. The price of eggs and chicken and tires and housing and so forth, that's also part of it. But the real inflation is in the stock market. And my thesis to you tonight is the big recycling of U.S. And this doesn't mean everything's going to collapse in the next 3 days, that's not what I'm trying to say at all. The trillions that flow around the global economy are now in Parley. They're now in play. Okay? And fellow Muslims are negotiating with each other, and like the math isn't real good, like for places like Kuwait and Qatar that get like 70% of their water from desalination. In other words, Iran could have just like wiped out all the desalination plants in the Persian Gulf, and it'll be like a Holocaust. They didn't do that. They're not going to do that unless they have to. So it's not even about like Israel's going to throw this many and Iran's going to throw this many back like we did the 12-day war back and forth. Mm-mm. The Persian Gulf is probably never going to be the same. It's probably never going to be the same. Okay, here's your Christmas reading list. There's a book, pardon me a second. So, there's a book called, what is it called? It's about Aramco. I think it's just called Aramco. It's the story of the word comes from Arab American oil company. And I always like to tell this story. So remember at the end of World War II, Stalin and FDR and Churchill all met in Tehran. On their way back, Churchill and FDR separately met with the King of Saudi Arabia. And the numbers are just absolutely insane how much oil was in Saudi Arabia, and they knew it. Speaking of which, the monster mega super elephant field is called Gawar, I don't know how to pronounce it, Ghawar, I believe. And Iran hit it. They didn't like annihilate the whole thing and blow up all the oil because China doesn't want that either. China doesn't want Iran to just turn the Persian Gulf into a desert because they lose their oil, right? For like a year. So something else this is my parlay thesis too. So Churchill goes and meets with the king of Saudi Arabia, who lives like this real Arab native life. He's a king and he has slaves and sheep sitting on the carpets beside him. And the king comes in to meet with him, and Churchill is smoking a cigar and drinking a glass of scotch. The horrible affront to a strict Muslim, right? FDR goes, you can go look this up. I think this is hilarious. FDR meets with him, doesn't drink anything, is very polite, treats him like a fellow, king, president, national leader, whatever. Hand writes a note to Eleanor and says, met with the king today in Saudi Arabia, saw his prize sheep and his slave, and we had dinner together, and it was a real hoot. And that's the note. It was a hoot. The United States is taking over the biggest vat of oil on earth, and it's a hoot. It's just FDR. He probably got on the plane and smoked his cigarette in his cigarette holder. So that's the moral of the story of why the king and the Saudis chose America instead of Britain to do business with. Somewhere it says that they knew the Americans just wanted to make money and they were fine with that. This is sort of my Whore of Babylon thesis. They knew if they got in the British Empire, they'd never get out. They would just become part of, the Commonwealth, just like India, just like every other part. So they decided to do business with the Americans. And there's some crazy statistic when they started to drill in Saudi Arabia, like in 2 weeks or something, they were producing more oil from like 5 wells than all of Texas. Just I think I did the math one time, and like the oil under Saudi Arabia is like Lake Erie. It's like inexhaustible. It's unfathomable. It has flatlined for about the last 5 or 10 years, but let's all calm down. So everything is in Parley, people. And all this money that flows through all these funds and business development companies and BlackRock and hedge funds and all this. This is what Trump did right out of the gate, right? You saw it on TV day after day after day. Unbelievable. Talk to the king. And he would even go like, what about 700 billion? Can we do 700 billion? Unbelievable. We got 700. It's like one of those things where they raise money on television. And then they'd go to the next one, and then they go to the next one. I think Musk was with them, right? That whole thing has just been, this exchange of missiles has put that whole thing on the kibosh. So tomorrow we're going to do probably about an hour-long thing at noon, 9 o'clock here in San Diego. And we're going to talk about what this means for investment, because all of this money has gone into not really the earnings and revenue of the NASDAQ, but the anticipation of earnings and revenue. And that's a problem. There's 6 or 7 companies that are worth $25 trillion. There's big tech, as we commonly call it here in America, is bigger than all the stock markets of Asia. But hold on, it gets a little bit worse. Do we need a musical interlude? I think we do. If we talk about Palantir, we have to talk about what's happened in Iran. Must take a lot of Wi-Fi throughput because I can barely play 2 things at once. So we'll just skip that and keep going. Now, I'm not going to do like a big, scary, gory, blood and guts kind of thing tonight. Quite the contrary, because everybody wants to go there. And I think what's happening is the response from Iran is the exact opposite. They're like, we've been here 6,000 years. You're going to go away. And that's what I think they're saying to the Gulf states. Someday the Americans are going to leave, and you're just going to be in the fucking desert. And there's nothing, there's no vegetables, there's no trees. Go look it up yourself. Like the numbers, all the food comes in through the Straits of Hormuz. The oil goes out, the money comes in the checking account, the natural gas burns, basically boils the ocean water and gets steam and turns it into water. That could all be vaporized in 10 days. Pun intended, vaporized. So here's where it gets a little edgy. Hold on. Let me also throw in just a little bit more on the energy side. Putin came out this week and said, now think about this. They've thrown missiles at his ships, at his bridges, at his and he's never turned off the gas to Europe. He could just say, "Oh, war? Okay. How about you just don't have any fucking gas at all?" There's no natural gas in Europe. There's a little in the North Sea, but it's not enough to maintain like a first world lifestyle. I've never heard him say this before. He came out this week and said, maybe we should just make a decision. There's all this talk of war, and Poland's going to sell gold and start building tanks, and Germany's going to start. Maybe we should just turn off all the fucking gas to Europe. Hold on. Well, you just said that like 20% of the liquid natural gas comes out of the Straits of Hormuz. Right. And then if the Russians would turn, parts of Europe would go dark. Parts of Europe would not have any heat. It's that bad, people. South Korea has 9 days of gas. They get all their gas out of those big ships with those big giant balls filled with it's below 200 degrees Celsius. Sorry, 200. It's negative 200 degrees Fahrenheit in those balls to make it go from a gas, like when you turn your gas on, to like something that's like propane. 20% of the oil, 20% of the LNG, 15% of the fertilizer. Urea is made from natural gas. It is World War III. A lot of people are starting to say that now. I'm like, I don't know where everybody's been for 25 fucking years, but World War III started on 9/11. This is obviously just the escalation after escalation after escalation. And World War III, War on Terror thing doesn't really work if there's this big mountainous kingdom with an endless supply of fucking missiles, does it? No. So this is the big one, people. This is the big conclusion to the War on Terror. Yeah. To that effect, the President of the United States has, for the last 100 years, has basically controlled the price of oil. And there's some bad stuff. The 70s was sort of a bitch, but we had disco, so it was fun. But no, but there's a conspiracy that the Arab oil embargo really wasn't about Israel and the treatment of the Palestinians, although it was probably part of it. But there's another conspiracy that Henry Kissinger went to them and said, as we went off the gold standard, they went to the Persian Gulf and Saudi Arabia and said, you know what, in a year or two, why don't you just run the price of oil up to whatever you want and just make trillions? In today's money, it'd be trillions, right? That's really what happened in the 70s. But, for us lay people, we'll just stick with our conspiracy theories. Okay. Now, the next part of this is a little more sophisticated, and it goes like this. Who's deciding what and who and what to bomb in Israel? Palantir. Yeah, AI. I mean, I just saw the headline just as I was turning this on. They think Anthropic AI was used, whether it was a mistake or not, whether it was on purpose, to bomb those little girls in that school in Iran. It's an AI war. Okay. So on Sunday, I'm going to give you some really weird shit. Like, it's going to be called Armageddon. This is Armageddon, folks. We are moving towards Armageddon. I don't say that to terrify you, but like, there's things happening that actually sound like the Book of Revelation and the Quran. To include, some woman DM'd me and she said, yeah, there's a hadith. That's not the Quran. That's the Muslim religious text of the oral traditions that talks about a dark cloud. We use the word cloud to describe what AI is. And my thesis to you is, if American AI becomes identified with mass casualty events and threatening We blew up an Iranian ship that had no weapons on it, and just for fun, because we can. It's easy. The first submarine attack since 1945. They shot the torpedo right under the thing. It detonated and cracked the thing in half, and the whole thing went down so fast there's no survivors. If American tech becomes identified with mass casualty and genocide, no one's going to fucking use it. Switzerland has already said Palantir isn't allowed to operate here. The Pentagon just had an argument with Anthropic and is shifting over to OpenAI for this very reason. If we're seen as like the board of beasts, like these crazed, killing freaks like Alex Karp, what's going to happen? People are going to get rid of Palantir, and they're going to get rid of Oracle, and they're going to get rid of Microsoft, and then they're going to get rid of the financial system. What do you mean the financial system? Well, that's where it rides in on, right? So all the Gulf states with all those big banking operations, and we all know this, right? Dubai, where do you think those big buildings come from, right? It's like a Switzerland that's all filled with American technology and American banking and Western banking. Part of the negotiation could be, we're Muslims. We're not even really supposed to operate in that usury-based system. That's called riba. That's sin. That's facade. It's bad. You need to get rid of all that shit. If you want to have your own little private Switzerland here along the Persian Gulf, that's fine. You can sell oil to the Chinese. Everybody's rich. You have beautiful wives and beautiful Mercedes and everything. But you're going to have to get all that fucking American tech out of here. See where I'm going with this? I think that's what's coming. I mean, the guy that runs TikTok and runs Oracle and is building all these data centers and is now taking over Paramount and Warner Brothers. The whole American media is going to be taken over by one bad person. By the way, Oracle's 40% owned by Larry Ellison. We have let's not go there. It's a Friday night. We're all friends. The tech is where it's not about missiles. It's not even completely about finance. The real problem here is the tech. Because we have $25 trillion in 7 companies, and nobody knows where the revenue is going to come from, even without all these problems. Right? So the whole system coming out of the 20th century, we built the internet, we built Microsoft and the iPhone and all this. And everybody's like, yeah, Americans are a pain in the ass and they're loud and they call the waiter in Paris garçon, they're offensive and all that, but they're just Americans. They eat chicken sandwiches and let's just go with it. Well, we just can't keep killing Muslim children. It's not going to be the same. And Alex Karp says publicly all the time that we're going to do this. We're going to go to war with Iran. Lavender ran the Gaza genocide, and we're going to next go to war with Russia and China. He should be institutionalized like immediately, but he's not, because they're building the beast. So we'll go pretty hard and heavy on that on Sunday, because it's very scary. And what the alternative could be, instead of just people moving away from it, could be something that actually sounds like something crazy coming out of the sky that is like the fist of God or like the mouth of Christ on the white horse. And you can see where I'm going with that. So tomorrow at noon, 9:00 here Pacific, we're going to talk about investment. No more blood and guts, Armageddon stuff. We're just going to talk about what's really going on in the financial markets, because here in San Diego, we're going to launch a new investment platform. It'll include crypto. It'll include everything. Probably lastly, we need to think about that the two things, all the dollars get recycled into U.S. assets, and that's what makes our financial system operate the way it does. But the price of oil is the price of oil all around the world. If it goes to 170, what will happen, and it's already started, boats are going through the ocean with oil and gas in it, and they're getting calls from the owners, turn around and go to South Korea, turn around and go here for an extra $10. Same thing happened with silver. You can get a quote for silver from Wall Street that's like $80. If you buy it from the US Mint, it's $180. So hard assets, real assets. I'm going to use the word hard assets. I think it's more masculine and more American. We're going to work on that tomorrow. We may need whole new things. It doesn't mean the dollar's going to zero and sell all your stocks. It's not that simple. I'll leave you with this. They interviewed Warren Buffett recently, and he said, well, if we're at war again, I'm not going to hold cash. War and inflation go together. So you have to ask yourself, is blowing up all the oil and gas infrastructure in the Persian Gulf, is that going to solve the problem of inflation or make it worse? So I'll see you tomorrow at noon. Have a nice night.